Shop online, check out upcoming events, learn more about making zines and their risograph printing services. You can find out how to book the meeting room on Instagram. The handle is at Bone Shaker Books, also on Blue Sky as well. Reno, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. This was so fun.
Okay. And thank you, everyone, for listening today. If you are on YouTube, please subscribe. Leave us a comment. How did you like today's episode? And for folks on WCPT 820, up next is Choose Views with Richard Chu. Here in Minneapolis on AM 950 Radio, it is the Matt McNeil Show. After that, Native Roots Radio. And then stay tuned at 10 p.m. Central for Ghost Box Radio with Greg Bakken. And until this time, on Monday, keep it queer, America, unless you're in Chicago, and then we're going to be at our new time, weeknights at 10 p.m. as well. All right, now, keep it queer, America.
Not all people are the same. And yet, when we visit the doctor, our treatments don't look that different. Why is that? Because we just don't have enough information to do it better. By gathering health data from 1 million people, our country's best researchers will be able to develop treatments that are as unique and complex as we are. With this new information, doctors will have a better understanding of disease so they can innovate the next great breakthroughs in medicine. Learn more at joinallofus.org.
Nearly 1 in 2 U.S. adults have high blood pressure. That's why it's important to self-monitor your blood pressure in 4 easy-to-remember steps. It starts with a monitor. Be next to talk to your doctor about your blood pressure numbers. Get down with your blood pressure. Self-monitoring is power. Visit managerbp.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council, the American Heart Association, and the American Medical Association, in partnership with the Office of Minority Health and Health Resources and Services Administration.
I'm Smokey Bear, and I made an assistant to help you out, because only you can prevent wildfires.
Hey, Assistant Smokey Bear, call me Papa Bear, because I'm grilling up dinner. Do you get it?
Yes, good job.
So, what should I do with all these coals?
Don't just toss them out. Put them in a metal container because those embers can start a wildfire.
I understand. The stakes are high.
Ha, 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 ha.
Learn more at SmokeyBear.com.
Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
What if you didn't follow the path everyone else takes? Would you rather make your own way or spend your life saying, what if? Life is calling. How far will you go? Peace Corps. To find out more, call 1-800-424-8580 or go to peacecorps.gov.
From the personal experiences that shaped you to the accomplishments that shaped the world, every moment of a veteran's service is meaningful. At the Library of Congress Veterans History Project, we ensure those moments are never forgotten. For 25 years, a collection has made the experiences of U.S. military veterans accessible to all. Veterans, now is the time to share your story and make our history more complete. To submit your stories, photographs, and documents, visit loc.gov/vets today.
Tune into the Thom Hartmann radio program, your home for news, opinion, and insight, right here on WCPT 820, where facts matter.
AP News, I'm Marcela Sanchez. Admiral Frank Mitch Bradley appeared for a series of closed-door classified briefings at the Capitol yesterday. Lawmakers are conducting an investigation after a report that he ordered a follow-up attack that killed survivors on an alleged drug boat in the Caribbean to comply with Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth's demands. He told lawmakers that there was no kill-them-all order from Hegseth. Speaking to reporters, Republican Senator Tom Cotton says the U.S. attacks were righteous strikes.
These are narco-terrorists who are trafficking drugs that are destined for the United States to kill thousands of Arkansans and millions of Americans.
Democrats who were also briefed and saw the video of the survivors being killed said the incident was deeply concerning. AP correspondent Charles de Ledesma reports Russia's Vladimir Putin and India's Narendra Modi are holding their annual summit with topics including defense.
The 23rd Russia-India summit comes at a pivotal moment as the US pushes for a Ukraine peace deal while seeking global cooperation. It will test New Delhi's efforts to balance relations with Moscow and Washington as the nearly 4-year war in Ukraine grinds on. According to Indian officials involved in preparations for the summit, the agenda includes talks on defence, energy and labour mobility. Putin was received by Modi at an airport in New Delhi on Thursday, who gave the visiting leader a bear hug and a tight handshake with the gusto of an old friend. I'm Charles de Ledesma.
A federal vaccine advisory committee is set to decide today whether newborns should still get the hepatitis B vaccine on the day they're born. The vote was delayed from yesterday after members voiced confusion about voting language. U.S. Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s committee is now considering whether to recommend the birth dose only for babies whose mothers test positive. This is AP News. There's a feeding frenzy being reported along the California coast.
If you've been to a beach in California, practically any beach, you've probably seen them.
I mean, there's such a part of the West Coast.
Russ Curtis of International Bird Rescue.
You're at sunset, you see this squadron of pelicans floating along with the surfers in the background.
The California brown pelican, tracking the shoreline, its distinctive curved neck and pronounced beak, ready to scoop anchovies, sardines, or mackerel. Once on the endangered list, they have struggled. Curtis telling us just last year.
Lots of theories, everything from, climate change affecting the ocean environment, storms that may have stirred up the water too much for the anchovies.
But now an encouraging sign's being reported. Water churning in whitecaps as the big-billed birds plunge beneath the surface in a feeding frenzy. That's what scientists call it. I'm Ben Thomas.
And I'm Marcela Sanchez, AP News.
This is 8:20 a.m. WCPT Willow Springs and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now your WCPT 820 weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Laura Lockwood. Mainly cloudy with occasional sunshine today, a near 27. Tonight, mainly cloudy, areas of snow and some freezing drizzle, a low near 25. On Saturday, lots of clouds, high of 27. Saturday night, cloudy with areas of snow developing, will cool to a low near 20, a dusting to an inch possible. More snow on Sunday, an additional dusting to an inch. That's your latest Chicago weather update. Right now, 12.
If you've been waiting to try learning a new language with Babbel, now is the time. For just a few more days, you can unlock all of the languages on Babbel with a lifetime subscription at our largest discount of the year. Where will Babbel take you? Find out at Babbel.com. Y una cosa más. This is your last chance because our biggest sale of the year ends on December 7th. For just a few more days, you can get Babbel's lifetime access for less at Babbel.com. That's Babbel.com.
You're listening to WCPT 820 because facts matter.
Welcome to Choose Views with Richard Chu. Get ready to dive into a world of insightful conversations and thought-provoking discussions.
As progressives, our job is to have an all-inclusive, full-on assault with all of our players.
A show that focuses on moving our political, social, economic, gender, and cultural conversation forward.
And all of our players means all of our players.
It's Choose Views. And now, here's your host, Richard Chu.
Good Friday morning, progressives. Chins up and shoulders back. Yes, we made it to Friday. How about that? That's pretty cool. Welcome to the December 5th, 2025 edition of Choose Views, 773-763-9278. Find my show on Facebook Live, TuneIn Radio, heartlandsignal.com, and, of course, YouTube. Email me at richard@wcpt820.com. And follow me on X, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, Blue Sky, Threads, Spoutable, and Substack. Catch all of our shows by subscribing to our WCPT podcast on Apple Podcast, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. There you can get Choose Views, featured interviews, Joan Esposito, live, local and progressive, Driving It Home with Patty Vasquez, It's the Democracy, Stupid, with Edwin Eisendrath, Out Chicago, and our other shows and interviews by making your way over to heartlandsignal.com. Yes, all that good stuff is there. Go to the site, check it out. A couple of quick ones for you guys. You guys saw that Trump pardoned Democratic Congressperson Henry Coyer. ahead of his bribery trial. We've got an article there regarding that, and talking about China's carcinogenic pesticides ravaging throughout Iowa. We got a couple of others on gerrymandering in the state of Indiana. So make your way over to Heartland Signal, grab those articles, and make sure you are putting part of our survey real quickly. We have a favor from our listeners, especially the folks who have helped spread the good information. If you've shared something you heard on WCPT or read on heartlandsignal.com, maybe a clip, a story, or a moment that cut through the noise, we want to hear from you. We're building a network of people to help their community stay informed, and you might already be one of them. It only takes a couple of minutes. If you go and fill out the survey, you can enter a drawing for one of 5 $25 Visa gift cards. Just go to heartlandsignal.com/share and tell us how you pass along information. Again, that's heartlandsignal.com/share, and be a big part of how trustworthy pro-democracy news actually travels. We want to learn from you as well. So thank you for that. And it's a big day today. Obviously, later in the show, we're going to have quite the guest lineup. Today's guests include, of course, at the 6:30 hour, author Susanne Antonetta, who's written this really fabulous book that talks about eugenics and talks about the history of that in this country and throughout the world, and how that ties into where we are today. Really interesting perspective. Karen Byrne from TruBlu Politics Podcast will be with us in studio in the 7 o'clock hour. And then at the 7:30 hour, Mayor Brandon Johnson will be with us today for our Month with the Mayor. And we'll be talking about a handful of things, as much as we can squeeze in the time frame that we have. So there you go. But speaking of Mayor Johnson, check this out, progressives.
Hundreds of thousands of people have reached out to me expressing outrage.
I'm having a tough time trusting and believing you. You don't talk to that many people. There's just no way.
People reach out to me all the time.
Well, at 2.7 million people population in the city of Chicago, if you talk to hundreds of thousands of them, you are talking to what, 20, 30, 40% of the city population?
On a regular basis?
Any news organization in here would dream of having that kind of interaction with the population.
Yeah, your ratings are so substantial. Oh my gosh, I'm surprised you're here with just that limited equipment, because there's actually limited equipment that you are operating with right now. Let me just get to your question. I think I know what you're asking. You're asking me whether or not...
And by the way, the people who interact with me agree with me. They don't agree with you. Take a look at the comments.
We got it.
But the fact of the matter is simply this. That the fact that you think that a Christmas market across the street from City Hall is more a threat to public safety than violent black teenagers running down State Street shooting people at a Christmas tree lighting shows your priorities. What do you say to those people, citizens, black, brown, business leaders? What do you say to those people?
Got it.
Yeah. That if they get a phone call from you or they get an interaction with you, they should avoid you. I'm not going to entertain, because the whole premise of everything that you bring up is not only disgusting and racist, it does no facts to it. There is not a person in this city who spends more time working to ensure that we're protecting working people. There's not a person that spends more time thinking about it. In fact, our budget reflects that. My values reflect that. You would do yourself good service by actually showing up in this room with some level of integrity as well as some honesty. You don't operate in any of that.
That's our awful mayor that doesn't stand up for anything. And even with his imperfections with the budget and with the CTA and all the things that people want, I'm fighting the temptation from people who are sending me text messages going, saying what they're saying about me, about the mayor. Someone actually had the gall to say that, well, I'm not going to repeat it on the air. I'll stop myself. Mayor Johnson is taking the position that he is going to fight and push back. He has been doing that. Our leaders, that clip is less about Mayor Johnson, you guys, and more about our Democratic leaders. We spend a lot of time talking about what they don't do. And until up and down the political spectrum, until folks on the right and left start to drag the Republicans on a federal level and on state legislatures, the conversations are kind of empty. Because if they, we talked to a couple of people this week, and we did last week, where they are in states, Ohio, and in Indiana, and in Iowa, and in North Carolina, where the majority of the people that are leading there are Republicans. That they have the majority in the state legislatures. So let's get after them about truth and honesty and integrity and humanity. Let's get after them. Like Kurt Mullett from Hoosier Blue 63 says all the time, Richard, we had it tough down here in Indiana because our state legislators are just a skip above criminal. So there are many mayors in many cities that are red, and you wonder why those cities have issues, or those states or those counties surrounding those cities have issues. But nobody talks about that in terms of what red mayors are doing, or Republican mayors are doing. We only talk about what Democratic mayors are doing or not doing. And we've got one here in Chicago that is he knows what he signed up for. And when I talk to him later in the show, we'll get into some of the details or some of the issues around the budget and other items and safety in the city of Chicago. But I would rather have a mayor that's going to fight like that. And his chief financial officer, she knew the numbers also. So you came into the fight thinking you're going to, do the gotcha moment. See, that's why I don't do gotcha. I've got people that send me emails and texts all the time. Richard, why don't you ask the mayor harder questions and tougher questions? Because I don't want to. I don't need to. It's not that I don't want to. I really don't want to ask him a question that's a stupid question. I want to ask him how he's going to solve problems, like I would ask the governor, or I would ask any other elected officials. How are we going to solve the problems that we have, and how can we help you get that done? I think more people need to spend more time trying to figure out what they can do to help get things done, rather than saying everybody else is wrong. I even fight myself to say, what can I do more to say, what can we do to get things done? With our Democratic leaders, let me be perfectly clear. The Republicans can all kick rocks because they're not doing a damn thing. And it proves positive. You talk to somebody that you know that lives in a state that is a red state when it comes to their state legislators, and you will find, just, reach out to Kurt Mullett. If you don't believe me, reach out to Kurt Mullett. He will tell you. You can find him on social media. He is not going to lie to you. The Republicans in his state are causing far more harm than Democratic leaders are in other states, because at least the Democratic leaders are trying to move the ball forward and get some stuff done. The Republicans on a state level, you don't believe me? Don't have to believe me. Talk to Kurt. He'll tell you. They're causing more harm to their state. And so I want to keep getting behind the Democratic elected officials that are trying to get things done. Maybe they're not getting it done in the manner or as fast as we want it to get done. But let me tell you something. Crime in Chicago didn't start when Brandon Johnson became mayor of the city of Chicago. Budgeting issues. How about if we go back and look at what Mayor Daley Jr. Sorry, no disrespect. How awful of a decision it was to sell off our parking situation. Nobody's talking about that. That was a situation that started in 2008. But I wonder why the media in Chicago is crickets when it comes to how that's impacted our budget now. I wonder why. I wonder what's obvious. And we can go to any other city and layer that conversation over. So we will have a chance to chat with the mayor later in the show, obviously, and we'll get into some things. But I'm looking forward to continuing to support our Democrats who are out there fighting for us, at least not against us. Let's take a quick break, Henry. The number is 773-763-9278. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago, 1520 AM in Warren County, North Carolina, 103.5 FM. I'm Richard Chu. We'll be right back.
I know that hiring can be challenging. You sort through tons of resumes and you get too many so-so applicants. You're just waiting for someone to match your role perfectly. Well, now, there's a place where you can meet them fast. ZipRecruiter.
Need to hire right away. Start your search for strong candidates. The right fit awaits. Build your team, build it sooner. Beat your match on ZipRecruiter.
Just head to ZipRecruiter.com/free right now to try it for free, and you're on your way to meeting your match. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. So try it now. Go to ZipRecruiter.com/free. Once again, that's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Meet your match on ZipRecruiter. Try it free.
You're listening to WCPT 820 because facts matter.
Welcome back to Chew's Views with Richard Chew.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show. 773-763-9278. Yeah, so I knew it would happen as soon as we started talking about Mayor Johnson. I get the inbounds from people. I love it when people say something on social media or whatever, and then you find out that they're not accurate because they have their timing off. So let me ask you a question, Henry. Was Mayor Lightfoot the mayor of the city of Chicago when I started this show in February 2 years ago?
I don't think so.
I think it was Mayor Johnson, right?
I think so, yeah.
So how is it possible that I was trashing Mayor Lightfoot
That's
on this show?
Not to get too inside baseball, but we got someone called in at some point a little bit ago, and they also got the timeline wrong with you, saying that you had these claims when you didn't even have a show on the station at the time. I'm just like,
it's not here.
Yes, no, exactly. I'm just like, come on, guys.
And we didn't trash Mayor Lightfoot at all, even when on the family meeting. So people get your timelines right when you're going to say certain things.
Exactly.
But some folks they don't have anything else to do other than be a keyboard warrior. So there you go. Oh boy, there you go. That's the fun part. All right. So when we get the mayor on later in the show, we will ask him some tough questions about the budget. We'll ask him some questions about safety in terms of the curfew. We'll get into that a little bit. So stay tuned, all you pundits. Sorry, not pundits, you trolls out there. They have nothing, huh?
They wish.
You wish you. Yeah, exactly. That's the reason why. And whether you like it or not, that's how we're going to handle it. Henry, I'm going to hit him with a couple of Choose Views news items. Let's do this, and then we'll get to things to do here in Chicago. All right. December 5th, 2025. New York Times is suing the Pentagon over free speech violations. A new lawsuit filed by the New York Times and intelligence reporter Julian Barnes accuses the Pentagon of violating the newspaper's rights to free speech and due process. New press rules announced in October unconstitutionally restrict journalists' communication with military sources, the Times says. Named defendants include the Department of Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, and Pentagon spokesman Sean Parnell. The Times and a handful of other media outlets lost regular press access to the Pentagon upon declining to sign the policy. Wow, something that for decades reporters had access to. That's going to be really interesting because it's a free speech filing. Jobless claims hit a 3-year low, even as layoffs rise. Another day, more conflicting signals on the health of the U.S. labor market. New unemployment applications for the week ending November 29th declined by 27,000 to a 3-year low of 191,000, according to the Labor Department. Data released yesterday. Meanwhile, outplacement firm Challenger, Christmas & Gray, announced separate findings that even after dropping from their October highs, yearly layoffs last month exceeded 1.1 million, the most since the pandemic in 2020. Dollar General is seeing some positive things. Expansion in 2026 is on their as part of their plan. They said yesterday they've raised their yearly outlook on elevated third quarter sales and profit. The retailer said its new focus reflects improved performance and accounts for uncertainty associated with consumer spending. The company announced plans to open 450 new U.S. stores and remodel some 2,000 existing locations in the year ahead. Dollar General's pricing model has made it a mainstay among households earning less than $35,000 per year annually. On Wednesday, the rival Dollar Tree, as we talked about, lifted its annual profit outlook, driven by bargain seekers across income spectrums. And last but not least, and this is another big one we'll pay attention to, Amazon considers ending its partnership with the United States Postal Service to make more of its own deliveries when their agreement expires at the end of next year, according to the Washington Post. Amazon is the USPS's biggest customer at over $6 billion in annual revenue, and sources said that ending the agreement could wreak havoc on the agency's finances. An Amazon spokesperson told the Post that the company is seeking ways to, quote, extend their partnership, which expires October 1st, 2026. And Amazon's looking to extend that by 4 years. So hopefully they can put that together, because I think that's a good partnership. You may not be in love with Amazon, but their partnership with the Postal Service has played out well. So there you go. A couple of Choose Views news items on this Friday. Wow, December 5th already. Man, we're just clipping along. Henry, let's hit him with a couple of things to do in and around Chicago if you're hanging out in the Chicago area this weekend. And there's quite a few. And we'll start with the fact that if you are into ballet, the Joffrey Ballet's Nutcracker is playing at the Lyric Opera. That's at 20 North Wacker. Lincoln Park Zoo Lights. I did that last year with my niece and grandniece. A little bit. It was pretty cold and windy that night, but we still went by. And that's taking place up in Lincoln Park. And then the indoor farmers market is happening at 2800 North Milwaukee. So make your way up there if you're looking to get out and see some of the outdoor season wraps. The Chris Kendall Market, which has had some controversy this week, which we may chat with the mayor a little bit about. That's taking place this weekend. And as you guys know, it's always at the Daily Civic Center, 50 West Washington. The Winterland at Gallagher Way returns to Wrigley Field this season. Ice skating, ice bumper cards, Santa's Workshop, and a miniature Chris Kendall Market. That's taking place up at 3635 North Clark. The Lightscape is happening in the Chicago Botanical Garden. That's up on Lake Cook Road. And the McCormick Tribune Ice Rink has got skating taking place, as we all know about, in Millennium Park, 201 East Randolph. What else is happening? The CIBC Theater's got the Performance 6 is happening there. Holiday Road, that's taking place on Western Avenue, at 99th and Western in Beverly Morgan Park area. And last but not least, the Wicker Park Bucktown Winter Wonderland is taking place up at the Wicker Park Fieldhouse, 1425 North Damon. So if you want more information on things to do hanging out in Chicago, send me an email. I'll get them to you. And so also, we said we'd start to talk about things to do in the region. Winter activities and events, cross-country skiing throughout areas of Wisconsin, Michigan, and Minnesota. Cross-country trails are all over different parts of the Midwest. You can Google different sites to find out where to go. If you're into ice fishing, Lake Michigan, Lake Superior, one of the many places in the region where you can go to ice fish, but be careful. Dog sledding. Experience the thrill of dog sledding through snowy terrains in Wisconsin, Michigan, and parts of Minnesota as well. There's winter festivals all over, going up as far as Traverse City, Michigan, and different winter wonderland events that you can take part of. So get out and enjoy it. Be safe, but take advantage of the great winters that we have in the upper Midwest. So there you go. All right. Should we take an early break, or how are we doing on time? We're doing okay. All right. We're doing good. Okay. So get out and about, enjoy yourselves, take advantage of what you can do in the upper Midwest. If you're one of those outdoorsy ones that likes to get out and ski, snow ski, or downhill or cross country, I should say, skiing. And I've never ice fished, but hey, we as progressives, we always we hopefully step out of our normal way of doing things and find some new stuff to do. So get out and about and try to enjoy as much as you can this weekend if you're here in Chicago or doing some things in the upper Midwest. Today on Live, Local, and Progressive, Turi Ryder will be in for Joan Esposito, and her guests include car guy Tom Appel. Live, Local, and Progressive, weekdays 2 to 5 here on WCPT, heartlandsignal.com, and tune in tonight on Driving It Home. WCPT's Paul Shivari will be here for Patty Vasquez, and his guests include John Parker, host of The Gailey Show moving to weeknights at 10 p.m. here on WCPT. That's Driving It Home with Patty Vasquez, weekdays 5 to 7 Central here on WCPT, the Heartland Signal website, TuneIn, YouTube, and Facebook. And then next week, big announcement. Next week, Michelle Peltier will be filling in for me Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Her guests will include some of our show regulars like Sarah Jones, Rich Logis, Kurt Mullett, and I'll be back Thursday and Friday. So Michelle will have some other guests as well. But just to let you guys know, Michelle will be hanging out with you next week, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So bug her with phone calls and just treat her with all the lovingness that you can. Saturday's Edwin show, it's the Democracy Stupid, will be joined. He'll be joined by Lavora Barnes, political director for Democracy Defenders Fund and former chair of the Michigan Democratic Party. Melissa Sanchez, investigative reporter at ProPublica, covering immigration. Bobby Kogan, senior director of federal budget policy at the Center for American Progress. And Rachel Leingang will be with him, the Midwest political correspondent for Guardian U.S. It's the Democracy Stupid, Saturdays 1 to 4 here on WCPT, heartlandsignal.com, and tune in. And as we said, starting next week, the Rick Smith Show will be moving from 7 p.m. to 5 a.m. right before my show. And the Gailey Show will be going to 5 a.m. to 10 p.m. So just bringing you guys up to speed on some of the house cleaning items that we like to say of things that are going on here at WCPT. So, all right. When I said earlier, I was talking about the clip that we played and Mayor Johnson and other leaders. One of the things that I think is important, and I say it all the time because I believe it, we have to be willing to support the folks that we put in office. We have to do both. We have to do a little bit of extra work. We've got to push them. We have to recognize the things that they are doing not as well as we might like, or maybe not well at all. But at the same time, we have to find ways to help them solve the problems. I believe that. I don't expect everybody to agree with me in that space. But I don't really care, because I'm not saying it to get people to agree with me or to be popular. I'm saying it because that's what I believe. I believe that and part of it's because I've been a coach. I've been an instructor and a teacher in my business. And I've always felt that if you spend all your time criticizing people, they're going to go away. And you have to find it in yourself, ways to criticize folks and then find ways to help them solve problems. If you don't, then you're just like everybody else. So that's to help some of you who are trolls or who always criticize me. And I don't need compliments. Believe me, trust me, I don't need compliments. What I want, and that's why I said want, not need, is I want more of us to find ways to help improve the dialogue, the conversation, the interactions with each other. There's way too much craziness out there. And I, in my little bit of way, in my little pontoon boat, I'm just trying to steer away from all of the negativity and just the whining and complaining and let me find something wrong. Oftentimes when people are just that way, Henry, I say, maybe you need to check yourself out. Maybe you've got some issues yourself that you need to work on. And I'm not trying to play psychologist, psychiatrist, or sociologist. I'm just saying sometimes we got to look at ourselves and go, what is it that's causing me to say and do the things that I do when it comes to other people? And that's something that that's one of the foundations as to why I do things the way that I do at this show. It's to find ways to move toward solutions. So, we're going to talk a little bit about that, possibly with our guests in a minute. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we will bring you some cool stuff to talk about psychology and stuff. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago, WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM. From Warren County, North Carolina, I'm Richard Chu. We'll be right back.
Stay safe this holiday season with Kidde fire extinguishers now at Menards. Kidde home safety products keep your family protected in case of emergencies. Ensure that you have the proper equipment for all areas of your home, like smoke and carbon monoxide alarms and fire safety equipment. Pick up a Kidde fire extinguisher for just $19.99 through December 7th. And don't forget to check out our flyer on menards.com for all the great deals happening now.
Kohl's Customer Appreciation Event is here, right in time for the gift exchange. Even though everyone pretends gifting isn't a competition, it kinda is. At Kohl's, save on gifts everyone will fight over. From sweaters and flannels to air fryers, toaster ovens, and more. Because deep down, the gift exchange isn't just about giving. It's also about winning. Shop Kohl's and save on top gifts now. Select styles, some exclusions apply. Offers end December 14th. See store or kohls.com for details.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Laura Lockwood. Mainly cloudy with occasional sunshine today, a near 27. Tonight's mainly cloudy, areas of snow and some freezing drizzle, a low near 25. On Saturday, lots of clouds, high of 27. Saturday night, cloudy with areas of snow developing. Will cool to a low near 20, a dusting to an inch possible. More snow on Sunday, an additional dusting to an inch. That's your latest Chicago weather update. Right now, 12.
Alexa, play WCPT.
WCPT from TuneIn.
He's not here to yell. He's here to inform and maybe stir the pot. This is Chew's Views with Richard Chew.
All right, guys, welcome back to the show. Before we went to the break, I was talking about how we have to spend a little bit more time trying to find ways to move forward and be a source of strength and positivity with people. And we've got a history in our country of not really paying attention to how history, we have a history of not paying attention to how history has impacted what we're doing right now. And with us this morning is the author of a really fascinating book called The Devil's Castle, Nazi Eugenics, Euthanasia, and How Psychiatry's Troubled History Reverberates Still Today. Susanne Antonetta. Good morning, Susanne, and thanks for being with us this morning.
Good morning, Richard. Thank you so much for having me. And yes, I was very inspired by your lead out just there. We do have to support people. I love that.
Well, thank you.
Support them in being better.
Yeah, what else are we going to do? We're just going to constantly tear each other down and denigrate each other and talk about how awful. I'm not built that way. And again, I say this respectfully. There are people who don't get that. And their position is, I don't care about history. I don't care about what happened. I'm not trying to make people feel better. I want to talk about what I don't like. Okay. I guess we can't hang out.
Yes.
And that's
good answer.
That's okay because
okay.
You know what I mean? I want to hang out with folks like you who, in our worst of days, we're still trying to find ways with all the ugliness, how we can find ways to move forward and make things better for people around us. That's kind of how I'm built. So guests like you are somewhat of a reflection of that on a very, very hard A subject of eugenics. Yeah. Good Lord. Susanne, talk to us about this. Talk to us about you for a minute. And then talk to us about what drove you to write this book. Because, man, to say it's a page turner is an understatement. But it's like reading that. Take this the right way, Susanne. It's like when there's a traffic accident and you can't look away. So that's a positive statement about your book on a very hard subject. So talk to us a little bit about that.
Sure. So I was diagnosed bipolar, actually first diagnosed schizophrenic when I was very young. And so I've been in the psych system for a long time. I've seen all the ways in which it's not working. And right now I think we're in crisis. We really have a lot of very unhappy people in mental distress in our population. And yet we're treating more and more people with medication. So something's not adding up. And one of the things I did in my book was going back to the eugenic history in the US and in Germany, was looking at how the US is still actually following some of the German leads. We're still practicing a kind of psychiatry that's very medication driven and it's a brain process. It's the biology of the brain driven. And that's exactly what Germany was doing when they decided we really can write some of these people off. And they did ultimately sterilize and kill quite a large number of their psychiatric population. But in doing that, they were really drawing a lot on a brain trust from the United States. So, and it is very much a history. We're still living. We're still practicing this psychiatry that, is based on the idea that you take meds and it's like, the brain's like any other organ. We just fix it, and it doesn't work. So why doesn't it work? That's my question.
What would be your answer, or a couple of answers, or is there a kind of a through line of why you don't see that it works?
Sure. Well, the through line is Germany, is that, in the late 20th century in the US, we went back to this German doctor, Emil Kraepelin, who had trained many of the Nazi doctors, and said, well, he was right about a lot of things, and let's just kind of revive his thinking. And he was one of the first doctors to really create a lot of categories and symptom lists and terminology for different kinds of mental distress, and to lay it at the feet of biology. And we are trying to do the same thing, again, just stressing medicalizing and medication. When we are body and soul, we can't leave the soul part out of it.
Yeah. So when this is one of the things that I've always said. I believe I've always said, if I were to go back 40 years, it may be something different, but I think I've always been on this. What is it about our history that prevents us from learning from our history? Do you know what I mean? Like, what is it why do we stay away from the learning and the lessons that come from history? I have my thoughts on it, but I want to hear what you have to say, particularly as you've merged some historical, medical-esque items to where we are currently.
Sure. Well, I think that humans are just really wired to believe what's convenient for them to believe. And when in the late, in the 80s, we went back to this, the late 70s and 80s, biological psychiatry and the idea that it's a disease like any other and you treat it with medication. What doctors were saying is we can trade the hour-long visit for 15 minutes. We can make this fast. We can make it cheap. We can make it, works really well if you're a pharmaceutical company. So there's a lot of people for whom the system is working. Unfortunately, that doesn't include the patient, that group of people. So I think it's hard to rethink our mistakes. We don't want to admit, hey, maybe we went too far, maybe we were wrong over there. And we still, I think, are caught in a lot of the same thinking that some people just aren't able to be fixed, that there's a hopelessness with the mind. And that's absolutely not true. And so many great doctors going back centuries have come in and said, I believe these people can be helped, and released people who'd been in asylums for decades in horrendous conditions. So I think we also need that optimism that there is nobody who can't be reached.
Yeah, and I think that going back to some of the things that I said before you came on, Susanne, is that I believe that there's always an opportunity to make someone's life better, or find a way to find something to do to have a pleasant moment with people. And a lot of times what we're seeing now isn't that in the conversation, and it's becoming a psychosis where people are just kind of off the rails. One of my good friends was here on the show with me on Tuesday, and he talked about the question around social media, which is one of the notes I wanted to kind of turn and ask you. How social media, in your opinion or your observation, is affecting those things that become problematic for folks when they look at their mental history or their mental capacity. Is there a piece of this where social media is a problem or part of the problem?
Sure, it really is. Because I'm going to go back to Philippe Pinel, late 1700s in France, who created a system called the moral treatment. Highly effective. They depicted him later breaking chains because he literally went into asylums and unchained people and healed them. He said that really the most important thing is to be with people, to understand them. A direct quote is to understand their hopes and dreams. And, looking at the late 20th century at a really very successful experiment here with treating young people in psychosis without medication called soteria, be with them, talk to them. They were actually just accompanied them through that journey all the way to the other side instead of just medicating the hell out of them. Social media has the same issue. We are wired to be with other people physically, and we get empathy cues, and we start feeling like, yeah, that person's like me. You know what happens when you look at a thumbnail and some text? Oh, that's a horrible, horrible person. If we had to do that, I think we all know this, but to state the obvious, if we had to do that in public, very few of us are that cruel.
Yeah. It's interesting because a lot of people don't have, there's a difference between being straight up and telling people how it is or not barriers, but boundaries when it comes to how you how we have to interact. We have to do that sometimes. That's a part of, I think that's a positive psychological thing, is to set boundaries, because it allows you to understand who you are and what you're willing to accept, and then what you're responsible for putting out into the universe. Sure. That's me. That's how I try to approach the world. But the challenge is with social media, people get to hide. You've heard the phrase used, keyboard warriors, whether it's on a computer or your device. There's a lot of folks out there that are keyboard warriors, but if they had to stand up face to face and talk to the person that they just sent that text out, not just a text, but that post on social media to the world, it would be interesting to see how strong they would be in that moment. Does that make sense?
It does, and I don't think that people would be anywhere near as cruel. I think they would maybe begin to be and then see what it was doing to the other person and stop. And I live in Asheville, and I was here through Helene, and I worked with World Central Kitchen, and I saw absolute heroism. And I saw absolute heroism coming from people who didn't vote like I did. Wow. That was very humbling for me. I saw people I would have thought would think the right way, just skipping town. And I saw other people who don't agree with me at all, taking their horses up mountains to get people out. Yeah. So I think that when you actually are dealing with live humans in front of you, it shakes you up. It shakes up your ability to be aggressive in a good way.
Mayor Johnson here in Chicago, I've said this so many times because it struck me in a way that it's so important. He talked about this back in May. We had our 20th anniversary in early May this year, and he was there. Thank you very much. And he said that one of the things that we have to do as progressive liberal Democrats, he was speaking from a political position, is that we have to be the ones, the champions, to regain our humanity. And I think that's one of the most powerful statements I've heard anyone say in a long time, and certainly in this environment that we're in. And so what seems like you saw with the backside of Helene was people, irrespective to some degree of their political position, their humanity took over versus their need to be opposing just to be opposing. Do you see what I'm saying?
Absolutely. And to bring it back around to the Devil's Castle, one of the things that frightens me a little in contemporary psychiatry is the lack of dialogue, the use of checklists. I mean, I saw a doctor for a while who had me just fill out a checklist for every visit rather than talk. I think that's really unhealthy. I think that none of us is wired to perform well in that kind of situation. And I think we need to go back to Philippe Pinel and the idea of understanding hopes and dreams, of holistic treatment, and of getting to understand people as humans and their life situations. We've edited that out of psychiatric practice almost entirely, and that's really a shame. That really doesn't work.
It's interesting that you said that, Susanne, and thank you for reminding us of that, the importance of that interaction. There's some criticism in the medical business, the medical field, the medical, broadly, that's happening when you go see your primary care physician. It's a checklist versus an interaction. And I'm not listen, I'm not throwing any shade at the medical field. I'm not doing that. For those who are listening that might be in the medical field and whatever part you are on the spectrum of the medical business, I'm not throwing any shade. I'm just asking the question. Do you see that more broadly outside of just the psychiatric space?
I see it absolutely more broadly. I think that the whole profession is increasingly getting less interactive. And going back to Hippocrates, I think 2000 BC, something like that. No, that's wrong. 400 BC, I think is correct. Said that it is much more important for a doctor to understand the patient than for a doctor to understand the disease.
Wow.
And several psychiatric critics were saying that in the 1700s, and in the 20th century, we're still saying it. But it is true. It's broadly across medicine, and that's no shade on the doctors. I think a lot of them are put in an impossible situation.
Yeah, I think that thank you for saying that, because we're both thinking the same thing about many of the doctors are in a situation where medicine has been corporatized, and I'm making up a word, but you know what I'm trying to say. And the practice of it, unfortunately, has put doctors kind of in medical practitioners, let me say it that way, in a silo of just do this. Don't worry about this over here. We want you to be in a silo, and this is how we want you to operate and function when it comes to patients. And that is, I think that's an issue for many of us. What say you there?
Absolutely. And there is a movement in medicine about what they call the moral injury of having to practice that way with 4-minute visits and snap diagnoses. So I think that what we all need is to figure out a way to work together to change it. I mean, the patients need to be coming in and offering their voices, along with the doctors, along with the AMA. And I mean, there just needs to be a massive protest of operating this way.
Yeah. So, one of the things that's always compelling to me is when we make these discoveries and when we see these things are happening, it's sort of like, what's going to be the next step, and how are we going to get to a place where we can all agree, yeah, this is happening now. We are seeing some strides. What do you think will be, and when we look at your book and how it's a historical perspective of a part of medicine, but also a part of psychiatry, what do you think are some of the steps that we need to take on an individual basis to push for more connectedness when it comes to various forms of treatment?
Well, I think it's something that just needs to be talked about in public, forums like this one. It's really important. And I think individual people need to try to make decisions based on, is this holistic care, to the extent that they can. I mean, none of us, all of us are forced into medical practices, maybe because it's the only one there. And I think that, the professional organizations need to talk about it. I think it's just one of those things that, like in the late 1700s in France, they did have this sweeping revolution in the way they treated people with mental distress, because several really vocal people demanded that, we can't say we're practicing equality and leaving out this big portion of the population and treating them badly. And we need to say the same thing. And we need to look at places like contemporary Italy, Trieste. The city of Trieste has done a brilliant job. They don't have people hospitalized anymore. And these people lead really good lives. And they did it without spending a whole ton of money. We just need to say, we've had it.
Yeah.
I think.
Good point. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu, and we're talking with author Susanne Antonetta, author of The Devil's Castle. Okay, so Susanne, in writing this book, talk to us about, what would you say was your biggest revelation, or your biggest, I hate to use the word learning, but you get my point. I say that respectfully. What was that thing where you went, golly, or maybe some other salty words?
I said a lot of salty words. I think the biggest negative one was how much was happening in the United States well after the war, in areas like, around 1970, using brain stimulation for conversion therapy. That was horrendous. And that there was just what happened in Germany with Jews happened here in many ways with blacks. This blacks are more likely to be schizophrenic. I'm sure you're very familiar. I will say on the upside, though, I encountered people so heroic I would stop working to cry.
Wow.
People like Fritz Bauer, a German Jewish lawyer who had to flee Germany and came back to prosecute Nazis. And became what people called the most loathed prosecutor in Germany because so many people didn't want him to. A man who worked with him, Johannes Warlow, a man who litigated a case that prevented Americans from being given brain implants to prevent anger. That is literally true, and that happened in the 1970s. So, it's not shocking that people go along to make their own lives better. But it is shocking to me that somebody would risk their own life in circumstances like that. And it's so incredibly moving to me. Just the heroism you see with people pushing back.
Yeah. I think right now, and I do my best to find the intersections in conversations that we all have. I was out with my wife and some friends for lunch over the weekend, and one of the things that we talked about, and this has been part of my conversations with folks the last few weeks, because it's holiday season, so we're gathering, we're talking, and so one of the things that's really been interesting, Susanne, is I've noticed how people who I've hung out with in the past for years haven't really, they've touched their baby toe in the water of politics and social issues and religion and sex and money.
Sure.
But because of where we are right now, and this goes back to what you said earlier about talking, I've noticed people who may have sort of sat on the sidelines or had their chair in the corner, proverbially speaking, have now kind of been weighing in. And they've been talking more about things, and they've been saying things that maybe that they've been feeling for a long time, but they haven't felt comfortable talking about it. And I believe this, that part of the reason that we are here on so many issues, politically, socially, economically, psychologically, is because for a long time, our society was led to believe, if not directed to believe, mandated to believe, you don't talk about that stuff. And because we haven't talked about that stuff, here we are today fighting an uphill battle with people who were talking about it and planning to do things to harm our society. Okay, that was a big, long one, but you could take that and peel it apart.
No, I think that's absolutely fair. And I think that, like I said, going through Helene and then working with people who were coming from a lot of different political places and seeing this sort of absolute conviction in everybody that we have to help people. Nobody can die. Nobody can be hungry. Made me realize that we have this enormous store of empathy that we share. And yet it's really hard to have those conversations and keep drawing on that empathy. And I think that maybe part of that is that we need more sort of general population psychological training almost. Maybe our educational system needs to take on more about things like how to respectfully disagree. Because you're right. It's like when the floodgates opened, nobody really quite knew how to moderate it.
Absolutely. What else are you working on these days? I always ask the question, what else you got going on? I'll just shut up there.
Sure. Thanks, Richard. Yes, I write for Psychology Today. Mad Woman Out of the Attic is my column, so you can check that out. And I've been working on this book on and off about Shakespeare and his mad characters because I realized he's one of the only writers who really gets what neurodiverse people act like. Mm-hmm. And they're always the smartest ones in the plays. They're always the only ones who know what's really going on. And I think that a lot of his sort of so-called mad characters are really misunderstood. So I've been writing about that. And it's been really fun.
Wow. Well, Susanne, I would love to have you back on again because I love your ability to intersect in your writing, historical to current, and how important it is that we spend more time acknowledging history and what it's done to us and for us if we allow ourselves to have those conversations. And The Devil's Castle is definitely one of the best books out there to speak to that. So I'd love to have you back in the future. But in the meantime, how can folks follow you? How can they find you? How can they get a copy of your book?
Well, thank you. I'm at SusanneAntonetta.com, SusanneTonetta. That's my website. You can get my book absolutely anywhere, as an audiobook, as a print book, as a ebook. It's out everywhere. It's very widely available. Glad to say. And yes, and so and find me on social media. I'm on Instagram as Mad Suzanne.
One of the first subscriptions to a magazine that I ever had was Psychology Today years ago. So that
oh, funny.
I'm proud. When you said that, I was like, wow, I wasn't the kid reading some of the engineering books and all that stuff back when I was a teenager, but Psychology Today made sense to me. So I guess here we are. But
you're obviously extremely emotionally literate. So that does make sense to me.
Wow. That is no one, I don't think everyone said that to me. So thank you for that. I appreciate that compliment. And I try to use that, if that's there, to help do a better job with my show and be respectful to the people that I work with. So thank you, Susanne, for saying that. You have been awesome to have on the show today, and I look forward to having you back again. Enjoy the holiday season. When we get into 2026, we may we'll probably have to tap into your understanding and all that when we have another chance. Sure. Does that sound good?
That sounds good. I'd love to come back.
Fantastic. Susanne, have a great weekend. We'll talk with you soon. Bye-bye.
You too. Thank you.
All right, Henry, let's take a quick break, my man. The number is 773-763-9278. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT, AM 820 in Chicago, and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM. From Warren County, North Carolina, I'm Richard Chu. We'll be right back.
Check up on health with Chris Whitting.
Cannabis use in the United States has remained at historically high levels, and the fastest gains are in a surprising group, according to Danielle Haley from the Boston University School of Public Health.
Interestingly, adults over 65 are the fastest growing age group using cannabis. And I think people are also kind of moving to cannabis for medical reasons, so thinking about your mood, sleep, pain.
And Dr. Haley says cannabis risks are very different when you're 65 years old versus 20 years old.
Cannabis interacts with a number of prescribed medications, and at the same time, particularly as cannabis is getting more potent, and if you think about something like an unintended injury or a fall, there may be greater consequences for people as they age as compared to someone who's younger.
With Checkup on Health, I'm Chris Whitting.
Are you looking to hire? ZipRecruiter finds the best candidate for your job fast. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
AP News, I'm Marcela Sanchez. A federal panel is expected to vote today on a new recommendation on hepatitis B vaccines for newborns. AP correspondent Ben Thomas reports.
For decades, the government's recommended babies receive a shot to guard against the liver infection hepatitis B right after birth. But a reconstituted federal vaccine advisory committee, formed by Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr., is taking another look.
There are indeed a lot of new parents who really don't understand this issue and have not received sufficient informed consent.
But Dr. William Schaffner at Vanderbilt University Medical Center says,
all of us need to do a much better job in informing new and soon-to-be parents.
Because the bottom line is,
it's very important that we continue to have this protection.
I'm Ben Thomas.
The committee will consider whether to recommend the birth dose only for babies whose mothers test positive. A man from Virginia has been accused of planting pipe bombs outside the Republican and Democratic national headquarters. Brian J. Cole was arrested for allegedly placing the bombs the night before the January 6, 2021 Capitol riot. It's unclear what connection, if any, the act had to the assault on the Capitol the following day. In India, passengers are facing disruptions in the country's major airports. New regulations that limit the working hours for pilots and crew members have forced Indigo, the country's biggest airline, to cancel flights. The second phase of the rules kicked in November, and Indigo struggled to adapt its rosters in time. Today was the fourth straight day of disruptions. World shares were mostly higher after the U.S. stock market held near its records in a quiet day of trading. More information at apnews.com. This is AP News. AP correspondent Haya Panjwani reports on new guidance on visas from the government.
The Trump administration has told U.S. embassies and consulates to prioritize visas for fans traveling for events like the World Cup and the Olympics. The administration is wishing for visitors to come to the U.S. to either invest in America or attend the 2026 World Cup, 2028 Olympics, and other major sporting events. They've also added new criteria for highly skilled foreign workers seeking a particular visa. The new rules would deny entry to applicants deemed to have directed or participated in the censorship of American citizens on social media through content moderation initiatives that have sprung up throughout Europe and elsewhere to combat extremist speech. The steps were outlined in cables sent this week to all U.S. diplomatic missions and obtained by the AP. Haya Panjwani, Washington.
More on this story at apnews.com. I'm Marcela Sanchez, AP News.
This is 8:20 a.m. WCPT Willow Springs and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now, your WCPT 820 weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Laura Lockwood. Mainly cloudy with occasional sunshine today, high near 27. Tonight's mainly cloudy, areas of snow and some freezing drizzle, a low near 25. On Saturday, lots of clouds, high of 27. Saturday night, cloudy with areas of snow developing, will cool to a low near 20, a dusting to an inch possible. More snow on Sunday, an additional dusting to an inch. That's your latest Chicago weather update. Right now, 12.
While retinitis pigmentosa takes Mark's vision, his family gives him hope, whether at the family business or at home with his wife and sons. He knows he's not fighting alone. For 50 years, the Foundation Fighting Blindness has funded research into treatments and cures for blinding retinal diseases, providing hope to people with vision loss. And for Mark, winning the fight means being there for his family. The Foundation Fighting Blindness. Together, we're winning. Help us end blinding diseases at fightingblindness.org.
Chicago's progressive talk, WCPT 820, where facts matter.
You're listening to Choose Views with Richard Chew.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show. Choose Views 773-763-9278. We're making it happen here, and wow, there's somebody. Mrs. Claus is in the building this morning. Who is that? That would be our good friend Karen Byrne from TruBlu Politics Podcast is hanging out with us. Good morning, Karen.
Good morning, Richard.
How are you?
Good morning, Henry. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Oh my gosh. What can I say? Where can I start? It's good to have you with us, and I know that right now we're all kind of asking the question, how much more stupid can this federal administration get? How much more
openly inept and corrupt and criminal? And
I mean, we say this oftentimes, it can't get any worse, or what's going to be the floor. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what the answer to either of those questions happens to be, if there is a floor. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what the next worst thing will be, because some of this stuff is a repeat. Mm-hmm. So, for example, and I'll throw this out to you, throw this out and then back to you, over to you. Hegseth keeps stepping on his proverbial pant leg.
Can't keep his story straight.
Can't keep his story straight. And then the people around this they start off defending. Then they go down the path of, well, we really didn't know, or that's someone else's and they play this game of, it's not even as
it's hide the pickle.
Yeah, I was going to say whack-a-mole, but it's more. See, I can't. I won't say that. I can say that.
Is that something else?
No.
Oh,
it's
shoot.
Not, that's
Did
not
I just step in it?
No, that's not an FCC thing. It's just that I won't say that. As a guy, I won't say that. Let me be perfectly clear why I won't say that as a guy. I'll let the ladies say that all day long. See, I made you now you can't tell the difference between her Santa outfit, Mrs. Claus outfit, and she's going a little red here. See, I'm real good at making people blush. I get there really quickly. I had Rico and Rick blushing.
And I'm practically translucent, so it doesn't take a lot, honestly.
There you go. So, but yeah, I think it is that. It's whack-a-mole. It's that thing you described. See, I stopped myself. I've had this morning has been a lesson in me not saying certain things or dealing with certain people on social media. But this administration and their followers they just can't get out of their own way.
No.
But the problem with this, Karen, the real problem with them not getting out of their own way is that people's lives are being destroyed. Some people are dying.
People are dying, and that is like we can make light of it and joke around about it, but that is the reality of the situation. And I do think that there are some cracks now in the Republican facade, particularly around the boat strikes, and then of course Signalgate is coming back up and rearing its ugly head for them. So this is the thing that people around Donald Trump don't understand. Donald Trump has immunity.
Yeah.
You don't have immunity.
No.
And he will be susceptible to, prosecution.
He could literally say to someone, or he could have a press conference pretty much now and say, yeah, I told Pete to do it. Mm-hmm. I authorized it.
Sure.
He
followed an illegal order.
And he followed an illegal order. But I got immunity.
Mm-hmm.
He could literally, this is the thing, this is where people have got to understand how dangerous he and his most immediate circle are.
Mm-hmm.
And those people probably include folks like still Musk and certainly Peter Thiel.
Mm-hmm.
And a few others that are really there that are saying, here's how we puppet this situation. Because he could literally call a press conference today and say, yeah, I ordered it. I ordered the strike.
I ordered the code red.
I ordered the code red and the second one.
Yep.
But guess what? I have immunity because the Supreme Court, 6 of them said I do, because I thought it was a presidential action. I could take it. But Pete knew better, and the admirals knew better.
Right.
So it's on them. He could have, and guess what? No one could hold him accountable for it.
That's right.
Because the entity that would hold him accountable for it currently, and I'll set the stage and then I'll hand it off to you. There is not one person in the federal government, in the administration at large, that would do anything or be able to do anything that had any teeth to it.
Mm-hmm.
But you know who would be able to? As if we win back the House of Representatives.
Yes.
So for those who
let the investigations and hearings begin.
Bingo. 24/7. 24/7. I'll send, if they started holding 24/7 investigations, I would do a lot of things to support that.
And it's not going to be about Hunter Biden's Johnson either. It's going to be...
And Marjorie Taylor Greene, who wants to be all loved right now, is the same person that brought pictures in.
Yeah, that's right.
To defame that man.
That's right.
In the halls of Congress. But there's people out there, some on the left, that want to but she's saying the right thing. No, bump that.
Mm-hmm.
But taking back Congress, Karen, that would be... That's the only way.
Mm-hmm. And so turn out, and everybody paying attention now, and hopefully the grocery prices, it's finally getting people's attention. All of this stuff with the Epstein files, hopefully that's getting, because those need to be released, and they need to be released unredacted, aside from the names of the or identities of the victims and survivors.
Because we aren't talking. It's interesting. I thought about this the day before yesterday. We aren't really talking about the Epstein files because of this situation with the boat killing.
Yeah, and it is extrajudiciary killing.
It's not an accident that we're not talking about it.
At best, it's a war crime, and at worst, it's murder.
Yeah, it is. And
either way, it's not good.
Either way, it's not good. And the other problem with, I said this earlier in the week, that I see with it is we know it's a trust issue, as retired General Honore said. It's a trust issue.
Mm-hmm.
We also know it's a humanity issue. But at the end of the day, not at the end of the day, all these combined, the third one being, it is a safety issue for our military men and women across the globe and our military operatives.
That's right.
Because now a country can legitimately say, we thought that those military moves.
It was self-defense.
They were here to harm us.
Yes. We're just exercising self-defense here because
just like the United States did, and
it makes us less safe, and our servicemen and women less safe.
And I hope that people on the right get that.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think that's why Mark Kelly and all of the members of Congress that have served in the military came out with that video to say this is the thing: you do not have to follow an illegal order.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and I wish, and I don't think they did this, but they could have gone even further and said, you are not protected. You are not immune. The commander-in-chief is immune. You are not immune.
That would have been a good juxtaposition of this is the other reason why, given the most recent Supreme Court ruling in this space, I have to believe, and this is where a lot of the knuckleheads out there that are, to go back to what Susanne said about people that are just, yelling and screaming. But this is where a lot of the knuckleheads, and I include from his actions, so I don't get in any trouble, Stephen A. Smith, and everybody else that's out there saying how Mark Kelly this, Mark Kelly that, and the others. I would gather, Karen, that they may have talked to their attorneys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Something tells me that they probably said, this is what we're about to do. What do you 7 legal brains think?
Yeah.
And there may have been some pushback to say, no, but you know what? You're on good legal footing.
Yeah, absolutely.
I got to believe that.
Yes.
So
they're just citing code. This is the code of conduct.
Yeah.
That's all they're doing, right?
All these knuckleheads out there that are running their mouths about the fact that these folks should be, and some pretty harsh things have been said about what should happen to them. They don't know what they're talking about.
No, they don't.
I don't think that those folks would have taken the mic and recorded it nonetheless. So now it's something that could be used in evidence.
Right. It has no standing. It would not have any standing. Not that matters, because Donald Trump and the DOJ are going after Tish James two times. Good news.
Yeah,
they're not picking that. The grand jury is refusing to indict.
Yeah.
So they can keep trying to prosecute these cases that there's no standing whatsoever and waste more of our tax dollars in doing so, but it's not gonna stand.
No.
So people are gonna start seeing that it's playing out in front of everybody.
Yeah. The question is, what are people going to be willing to do? I think that's where we have that right now. November 4th was a real big day. We know that because people did something. They went out, they voted, they galvanized. This week with Afton Bain, that people did something. Imagine if Louisville weren't so gerrymandered, what would have happened,
right,
et cetera. But the point I'm making is, not to get off too far a point, is that people are realizing it, and you're absolutely right, Karen. The question now is going to be, what are people going to do or are willing to do these next days, and that includes every single day until 330 days from now when we have the midterm elections.
Right. Well, and the great news is we are still a Republican if we can keep it. We are still a republic if we can keep it. And so the good news is that all we have to do is get out and vote.
Yeah.
And get everybody we know out to vote and vote for Democrats, because Democrats are literally the only thing standing between us and complete, full-on, unfettered fascism.
With all of our imperfections and our missteps and all those things, we're still the party that makes the difference right now. And whether it be on a local level, I give Mayor Johnson his props, and there's some things that that he could be doing better. We know that our state leaders are. Our party is the one that's doing its best to protect us from this other dark side, hands down. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu. We're talking with our good friend Karen Byrne from TruBlu Politics podcast about a little bit of everything. You know, Karen and I make some good gumbo and goulash and
some salad.
What's the Irish? Oh, Irish stew. That's an easy one.
Irish stew.
Yeah, how can I not know that one? Duh.
Shepherd's pie. That's my favorite.
Don't get me started.
I love shepherd's pie.
I do too. I'm not gonna lie. I love shepherd's pie. But Karen, one of the things that is being speculated, and I'll read you the numbers. 23 Republican representatives have announced they will not seek re-election in 2026. I talked about this earlier in the week. 4 Republican senators have announced they will not seek re-election in 2026. What are your thoughts about that? And what do you want to see happen?
I want to see Democrats run in every single one of those states, every single one of those districts, and really do a hard push. You know, one of the things I was listening to Joy Reid's show, and she had Jennifer from I've Had It podcast, and
Jennifer
you know
Walsh.
they were talking about the fact, she was talking about the fact that Democrats ceded so much space in the South in a lot of these red states, thinking and religious communities, you know, these different and just kind of said, hey, they're going to vote Republican. There's no point spending any money there. And in reality, if they went into those spaces and started talking about the issues, you know, those cultural issues, you know, like the anti-LGBTQ, you know, stances that a lot of them have, those would be put in the back, whereas the kitchen table issues, you know, the things that we are seeing unfold right now, you know, with the tariffs, with inflation, with the cost of everything, you know, gas, groceries, those things you could actually reach some people on. And so that it shouldn't be a foregone conclusion. The Democratic Party has to do better about moving into those spaces. And I think that's why it was so very important when we saw these Democrats going into the districts and holding town halls where their Republican counterparts were not.
Yeah,
and talking to their voters.
And you notice how Karen and I use counterparts, not colleagues?
No.
Henry, let's take a quick break. The number is 773-763-9278. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT, AM 820 in Chicago, WARR 1520, AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu. We'll be right back.
Still struggling with gas, bloat, constipation, nausea, or diarrhea? Have you tried eliminating foods but felt no change? It's time to call the tummy whisperer, Renee Barish at Digestive Health Solutions. Renee uses targeted testing to reveal exactly what's happening in your gut. Gut bacteria plays a key role in all your body functions, from cardiovascular regulation to brain function. When the gut is imbalanced, you may experience symptoms that extend beyond the gut, such as anxiety, skin issues, poor sleep, or increased risk for disease. Digestive Health Solution uses advanced testing to identify harmful microbes and evaluate the overall balance of the gut ecosystem. Get insights into your health, digestion, and how your microbiome affects all aspects of your body. Stop suffering. Call Renee now at 847-207-2034 or visit thetummywhisperer.com. That number is 847-207-2034. Let's get you feeling better. The Tummy Whisperer.
Because facts matter. You're listening to WCPT 820.
Richard Chu's got his eyes on the truth. And you're right where you need to be. This is Choose Views.
Welcome back, guys. 773-763-9278. I'm sitting with my great friend Karen Byrne from TruBlu Politics podcast. So I want to read a text that we got and give you the edited version. Facts do have a well-known liberal bias. Maggots can't handle discussions involving facts, logic, and reason. All they have is anger and hate, and they immediately degenerate into shouting lies and insults. And then I'll jump forward to something that they said. Please don't ask how much more stupid the administration can get. They'll take it as a challenge.
That's right.
630, thank you for that. Let me give one more to you. Hold on a second, guys. Okay. Okay. This is coming from Cassandra in Oak Park. Pete and Donald are like two little boys at Christmas time playing with the game Battleship. They want to see the target destroyed Only this is not a game, and real people have died, and the strikes have not been properly presented to Congress.
That's right.
Wow.
Where's the intel? Can anybody ask them, where is the intel?
We can't get them to... Sorry, Karen. Go ahead.
Well, no. I mean, but that's the thing. And it's like, we can't. Are they going to come up with it? Of course not. Are they going to do everything in their power to hide it, hide this and cover this up, just like the Epstein files? Of course, they're going to do that. But that doesn't mean that the media shouldn't be out there hammering that every single time. Where is the intel?
So, see, this is how I want to see. And again, I go back to why. What I was saying earlier about Mayor Johnson handling folks from the media when they ask stupid questions. Okay. And other leaders doing it. Gavin's doing it. JB's doing it, on and on.
Without calling him Piggy?
Right. Without calling him Piggy. Without saying, hey, hold on a second. Yeah. I'm going to get after you for this, but I'm not going to call you Piggy. Right. I'm not going to call you stupid. Right. I might call your accents a little bit,
Where are you from?
Yeah. But let's just try this out for a second. When we talk about, how we've seen so many people get out and yell and scream and talk about what the Trump administration is doing so well. And I keep coming back to Stephen A. Smith because he is so out of his depth right now that, like, the next time that he's on a show and talks about, how great Donald is, or he makes some deferent statement about him, I want somebody to ask him, so Stephen, wouldn't you like to see would you think the country should see the data on what was used to determine if we should fire on those ships, on those boats?
They're boats, literally boats.
Shouldn't the American people see that information? So, I mean, that which can be seen. Why aren't you asking Congress, Stephen, for them to request that, Republicans in Congress, since they have the numbers? One of the things that's happening is that people who don't know what they're talking about are getting away with saying some stupid stuff or inappropriate or inaccurate or harmful. I almost said Kellyanne Conway. I didn't mean Kellyanne Conway. Sorry. Megyn Kelly.
Oh, God.
I mean, she should have no presence right now.
No.
What she said was beyond craven. And I go back and say, well, now I understand. Maybe she should have been fired.
Oh, yeah.
Years ago.
Absolutely.
Because that was just off the rails.
But, the thing of it is the degradation and the fact, they just keep lowering the bar so much, and that's the danger. And this is a thing. And, I was indoctrinated into the Democratic, a liberal mindset, as a kid, so I think that I have always looked at the Republican Party with a different lens from some of my, friends who were raised by wolves, raised by these Republicans, and they don't look at it the same way. But I mean, the reality of it, and I say this on Stephanie's show all the time, and I feel like a broken record. This did not start with Trump. Trump was not beamed down from outer space. This has been the Republican Party as long as I have known them. They were using dog whistles before. They're using bullhorns now. And Donald Trump, what he has done is given permission to these people to just be outwardly racist, misogynist, and that's it. That's the only difference that I can see.
I will go back. I've said this before a couple times. I'll go back to 2016 during the Republican primary. We were in Washington, D.C., and we went to the Cherry Blossom Festival. And my brother-in-law, former Marine officer, and I were talking about, at the time, Cruz and Trump were the leading. They were kind of neck and neck. And then Trump went, it was right around the time, I think it was, or shortly thereafter, when Trump went after Cruz's wife and that whole thing.
Heidi, yeah.
Right. And my brother-in-law were talking. He's like, Rich, my concern is that either of these two, but certainly Trump, if they were to get into office, they would make it okay for all the crabs underneath the rocks to come out and to be to do that same thing. And we see it. We see it all over the place right now. And unfortunately, I don't know how we're going to put that craziness back in the bottle
We have to crush it into dust, which is what we should have done after the Civil War.
Yeah.
That should have been crushed into dust right then. But, every step of the way, there were measures taken in opposition, to equality, and it's still ongoing. And
many of it came from, as Kevin Schultz says in his book, many of it came from, white liberal mindset about that versus, okay, we need to kill this because if we don't, it's going to come back and haunt us all.
Right.
And it's been haunting. It keeps, wash, rinsing, repeating.
You can't move on for the good of the country by, pushing things under the rug. The dust is always going to come back out.
Yeah, it does.
You have to get rid of it. You have to get rid of this. We have to, once and for all, crush this mindset, in Germany even, they made it illegal. And I know that we have a thing called free speech here. But why is it that the loser flag, the Union Jack, is allowed to, be tried out, and they say, oh, well, that's just regional, pride. Or we had Confederate statues. These people were insurrectionists. They attacked the United States of America. They set up their own government.
Yeah.
So, to me, it's like, why is that a part of free speech? It is hate. Those are symbols of hate and racism. And so they should be done away with, and we should make that illegal. Just like, even the swastika, it should be illegal. That was...
Yeah. Well, and the part this is the part where, I get it, but at the same time, I also recognize that, that a lot of people, in terms of sweeping it under the rug, don't want to talk about the history because they themselves are contributors to it. Yeah, and they're complicit by not talking about it. And then they get challenged to talk about it, and they remain a little bit complicit. Like, well, we don't, and you've been in those conversations.
Oh, sure.
In some cases more than I have. But I think that more. I guess I'm really on a thing right now where, and it's because of some conversations that I've had, that I want people to stop lying to themselves about what it is that's really problematic in our country. Stop lying to yourself. You know damn well that what happened, and then fill in the blanks. You should have the courage to stand up to that.
Absolutely.
And if you don't, then you're not only complicit.
You're helping perpetuate it.
You're making it. You're actually making it. You're perpetuating it. It's allowing it to run off the rails faster. Because you could have stood in the way and said no. No, not today. And not even.
No. And okay. So, and this is, and I don't know how much time. Real quick. So I was invited to go to this holiday party, and I was specifically given the heads up that this, Tiny Tim person who I lost it on, who has said abhorrent things about, about Juneteenth, made comments about Kamala Harris and the Edmund Pettus Bridge and, whatever. I'm not going to repeat it, but, and I lost it. And I have not spoken to this person. He still comes to the table, and I do not acknowledge him. I do not show him one little bit of respect. And so this person invited me to the holiday party and said, hey, he's going to be here. Would you come if he's invited? And I said, you can, basically I just said, you can do whatever you want. It is your party. I don't have to engage with him. You have a big house. I can go and stay over there, and he can, run his idiotic mouth over there. But for me, and I did say to her, I said, what I don't understand is why you continue to give Aiden comfort to that. And why, and that you don't see that when you don't draw that hard line, and everybody's going to do what they need to do. But for me, if you don't draw that hard line, you're helping to allow that to continue.
Yeah, there's no
and
question.
You're just making it cushy and nice and safe for him to come around.
Guys, we're going to take a quick break. Yeah, I know Karen and I could go on for a long time because we both got something to say. 773-763-9278. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu. We'll be right back.
When it comes to the vitamins and supplements you take, quality counts. If you have questions or concerns about the vitamins you plan on taking, we're happy to help. Mark Drugs, better health and care for you and your pets. The most common signs you need a probiotic are if you have taken an antibiotic and need to balance out the gut bacteria, you find yourself getting constantly sick, or you feel bloated, unwell, or have skin issues. We carry high-quality probiotics at our pharmacy, such as Florastor, Floragen, and what I refer to as the Silver Bullet, Orthobiotic, which combines multiple strains of beneficial bacteria and friendly yeast to stimulate optimal gut flora. Get to know your pharmacist. Caring for you, your family, and your overall well-being is what our pharmacists at Mark Drugs stand for. You have a choice when it comes to your health care, and a great choice is Mark Drugs in Roselle and Deerfield, where you get better health and care for you and your pets. Check out markdrugs.com for the pet of the month.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Laura Lockwood. Mainly cloudy with occasional sunshine today, a near 27. Tonight's mainly cloudy, areas of snow and some freezing drizzle, a low near 25. On Saturday, lots of clouds, high of 27. Saturday night, cloudy with areas of snow developing, will cool to a low near 20, a dusting to an inch possible. More snow on Sunday, an additional dusting to an inch. That's your latest Chicago weather update. Right now, 13.
Hey Google, play WCPT.
Streaming Chicago's progressive talk from TuneIn.
Poverty sucks. Poverty sucks. These people are playing games with working people in this city. We're talking about $100 million and a $6 billion budget for families who do not have food. People who don't have scarves and gloves and coats and toiletries. People who can't pay the rent. Corporations are making a killing right now, and we have alders that are more interested in defending these big corporations than families like mine who went without food and electricity and could not afford rent and mortgage. The vast majority of the people in this city are struggling every single day just to make the ends meet, and we have alders that are playing games with those families. Give me something I can work with. Give me something I can work with. But challenging the ultra-rich in this country to put more skin in the game, that should not be considered a radical idea.
It goes without saying, that's our own Mayor Brandon Johnson. Good morning, Mayor Johnson, and welcome to Choose Views.
Hey, good morning, Richard. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And I had to play that clip because you got passionate about that. That one touched home for you. And I commend you for having the courage to let it fly, because sometimes that's what we got to do to cut through the ice and get down to the core of talking about an issue. So I appreciate you being willing to be vulnerable in that space and speak truth to the powers that are out there right now. So thank you for that.
Yeah, well, look, there's a lot at stake in this moment here. There are, families who are, struggling and working to reconcile that struggle. And it's incumbent upon us as a city to stand up for, working people. This is something that, quite frankly, people all over the country have been decrying. That there's more of a capitulation to the interests of the ultra rich and big conglomerate and huge corporations that have benefited from the Trump administration with the largest tax break in American history. And, Richard, I've been all over the city of Chicago. These lines are getting longer, and they're not just lines of people who are living in poverty. I met a mother a couple of days ago, children outside in the car waiting. She just got off of work, and she showed up at Care for Real on the north side of Chicago for milk, eggs, bread, right? I mean, these are people who have 9 to 5 jobs who do not have enough food for their families. And, that's what my focus has always been, putting forth a budget that protects all of Chicago. And I can't put it any simpler than that.
Yeah, no, and I get it. I think that folks in the city of Chicago get it. I think the big challenge right now is, I'm going to use the word transparency, but in a way that helps to open up this conversation. We've got you navigating the budget. We've got all the alders that are looking at this from a different perspective. They want to see it be put together differently. We've got the conversation around TIFs and TIF sweeps. Help us bring that together or speak to that. We know it's a tough spot right now. You're in a situation where part of the party is supporting what you want to do and another part of the party is not. And at the end of the day, the citizens of the city of Chicago are the ones that are going to have to bear the brunt of what happens. So if you can draw the intersection between that and how you've got to thread this needle, and deal with this right now.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting is that, the number of alders who have taken issue with the TIF surplus also signed onto a letter several months ago saying that they would support a TIF surplus in order to help CPS balance its budget. These are the same aldermen who had a critique over how I was working to ensure that, CPS would not, fall under the burden of cuts and layoffs. And I'm just going to be as straightforward as I possibly can. I get your question. My job ultimately is to bring people together, but I do need to call out, the fact that there are the same alders who are complaining about the TIF surplus also said that they would support one. When it was convenient politically.
Yeah.
This is what I was ultimately getting at and what you put in your clip. There are people who are playing politics with the lives of working people in this city. Now, the largest TIF surplus in the history of Chicago to make sure that our parks, our libraries, our city colleges, county government, because the surplus goes back to them as well. Over $200 million returns back to the city's budget, water reclamation. This TIF surplus actually allows for multiple levels of government to be able to have the resources that they need to deliver on behalf of working people. Yeah. The real debate is coming down to whether or not corporations should have to put more skin in the game. And I do appreciate the fact that we did finally have a group of aldermen who submitted a proposal. I won't call it an alternative. They did submit a proposal, and that proposal was still $336 million short of a balanced budget. Now, look, I'm all for participation points. I've granted them as an educator. And I do commend the aldermen for finally taking me up on my offer to submit a proposal. But it is woefully underdeveloped. And, the thread here that I believe you're referring to is, as much as I would like to solve all of the inherited challenges that we are addressing all at once, it's not feasible to be able to take on all of it, in mass, right? And so that's why this budget has sharp, consistent, very precise efficiencies without layoffs and cuts to services. We also find new forms of revenue that allow for the structural damage to begin to go through its healing process. Richard, I don't know if most people know this, but 80% of property taxes go towards pensions. That's how woefully underfunded our pension system has been. Now, we do know in 1995, the mayor at that time took away the dedicated levy that went towards retirement security and used it to develop downtown. Like there's no secret there. I'm not necessarily even judging that decision. I'm saying as a result of it, though, we have an underfunded pension system that now we're working to restore, while at the same time, cost of living is going up, and so people want us to build more affordable homes, a stronger transportation system. We want stronger mechanisms for community safety. So all of these wants and needs and demands, along with people's salaries, continue to go up, while the revenue sources that we have access to continue to shrink. And that's the thread. That's the line that I'm working to connect, where we ensure critical investments to continue to build the safest, most affordable big city in America, while also finding better ways to streamline government so that there are better efficiencies that exist.
One of the things, Mayor Johnson, that I appreciate you just saying, and that I talked about a little bit earlier, I was talking about in relationship to parking in the city of Chicago and what happened in 2008 with Mayor Daley. I think that oftentimes, and this is not just here in Chicago, this is true across the country, politically and socially and certainly economically, is that we forget about what history can be used for as a tool to resolving current issues. I was talking with a woman earlier, an author, Susanne Antonetta, about just the history of psychiatry and how we've gone away from looking at how historical things with euthanasia and other tools have been destructive. But if we don't look at the history, we can't sit down and say, well, that's not a move we want to make again. Or that's something that we do want to repeat. Or here's how we got here. And that then allows us to not make some of the same mistakes. And I think a lot of the people that are observing your administration are not looking at the history of Chicago administrators prior to you and prior to them and so forth. And I'm not saying that to give you, an umbrella to run underneath and hide, because I know you won't do that. I'm just saying that more people have got to be willing to do that and be willing to say, oh yeah, that's part of how we got here. So the fix is not going to be immediate. And I want more people to be willing to say that immediate fixes may not always work. They've got to be foundational. They've got to be able to create something that we can build upon for our future. I mean, talk about why I think that's important to you.
Yeah, it is. In fact, yesterday there were two, moments in our city's history that, we, acknowledged, right? The assassination of Mark Clark and Chairman Fred Hampton Sr. But it was also the day in which Mayor Daley sold off the parking meters.
Yep.
December 4th, right? And that decision was made within 12 days, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
The city council had 12 days to wrestle with that decision, and they passed it. And I've been working on this budget process from the beginning of this year. I mean, literally, we've had roundtable discussions. We put together this, group for this Ernst & Young project where we are looking for ways to make government more modern. And I think, what we've learned from the past is you have to have multiple voices and all stakeholders at the table. And that's why these community roundtables were so critical. This budget, Richard, literally reflects what the feedback that I received from people all over the city of Chicago, seniors. We had a whole roundtable dedicated to young people under the age of 24. I mean, we gave everybody voice here. And what this budget is doing is it's righting the wrongs of the past, one. It's modernizing our government. And two, it is also building towards the future, right? Mm-hmm. And so when I say course correcting, it's why we still are making, an additional payment for our pensions, right? It's why we are, ensuring that, police overtime is capped. And if police overtime is needed, they're going to have to come before the full city council and not just the mayor. right? We're creating, again, more of a collective, collaborative approach, right? This is not about me hogging power the way power was consumed a generation ago, but it's also looking at modern forms of revenue streams like our smart tax, the social media amusement and responsibility tax, where these big corporations, these big techs, who are making hundreds of billions of dollars, literally, through advertisement and selling off of our data, that over 100,000 users, we would tax these big tech companies, all of whom stood next to Donald Trump on Inauguration Day. And then we would receive those revenues to go directly towards mental and behavioral health care services. And so this is what I mean. And with those revenue resources, a mayor by themselves cannot determine whether or not we have access to mental and behavioral health. We saw what that looked like 2 administrations ago, right? When mental health clinics were shuttered and shut down, and people were arrested to try to keep them open, and people have died because we've lost those services, right? And so that is really the spirit and the motivation behind this budget. It ultimately protects Chicago from the type of past practices that have created the level and the depth of challenge that we are experiencing today. Now, the good news is this: it's a dedicated revenue stream to protect mental and behavioral health care services, dedicated revenue stream to make sure that our young people are invested in. Again, a TIF surplus that allows for our schools not to have to lay people off in the middle of the year. I mean, these are good measures, and these are things that the people of Chicago overwhelmingly support. If you were to poll Chicago again today, we've already done it, a supermajority of Chicago believes that these big corporations and those with means have to pay their fair share. The best way to build the safest, most affordable big city in America is to invest in people, modernize government, make sure that we have accountability mechanisms in place so we don't have, egregious lawsuits, right? We also have a modernized approach where if there's a particular police officer that is demonstrating some questionable enforcement, there's an early warning sign that the commander of that district will be able to be notified. And then perhaps there might need to be, it could be a need of better training, or there could be something severely wrong there. The point is, you don't wait till, someone builds up this rap or reputation, and then now we're spending hundreds of millions of dollars in settlements because of, the overuse of force, or even worse, illegal behavior. So that's really what this budget consists of, and it sets us up for the future.
Wow. Thank you for that. And I want to commend you for just breaking it down. It's a question that I wanted to ask you today and make sure that we had a chance to deal with a little bit. So I have to ask you a question about, this curfew conversation, good or bad, is I look at it like this when it comes to the curfew. Who's it going to actually be legislated against or toward? And I'm not saying whether I'm for it or against it, but I think that the solution is not to set a curfew necessarily, but to create situations where parents know where their children are. And this is, when the shooting took place, 10 days ago, or was it, a week ago, 10 days ago, I said, I'm not blaming Mayor Johnson for what parents didn't get done any more than I would blame the shooting that took place in Aurora. I'm not blaming that on the police or the mayor of Aurora. The responsibility lies in the laps of the parents or the guardians. And that's no different than if a bunch of suburban white kids came into the city of Chicago and acted doggone fools. I would blame the parents, not the city of Chicago or the mayor or the superintendent of police. So I don't know if the curfew is really a smart thing or a good thing, or will it really have effect, because kids are still going to be kids until parents draw the line in the sand and say no. What do you think? Am I crazy?
Yeah, no, you're not. In fact, my 2 youngest have just left for school, and I have an 18-year-old, and he'll be leaving for school in a few minutes here. And I know where they are all the time. And it has more to do with the fact that, I love them and and I want to protect them from anything and everything. And maybe at times they probably believe that I might be a little too hands-on, right? But, you know,
Better your
adults,
hands than somebody
parents
else's hands.
Exactly. No, that was the mantra that my father lived by, that I'm going to love you as hard as I possibly can, so that, you know, the world doesn't necessarily have to get a hold of you.
Yep.
And, you know, adults, you know, parents have to know where their children are at all times, right? And it was, and it, you know, it's a tragedy.
Yeah.
You know, a 14-year-old kid lost their life. And, you know, as we continue to go through the investigation, you know, it's likely that all the people involved are under the age of 17. And this is, you know, it's frustrating because with all the progress that we have made, you know, it's these type of tragedies that set us back, right? And, you know, and for what it's worth, and I think it's worth, you know, quite a bit. The very next day, you know, Richard, we had the Lights Festival along Michigan Avenue, and there were even more people out, and not one incident took place.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we know we have to make some adjustments as a city. I mean, there were over 700 additional police officers that were out. If you look at the video where the tragedy took place, there were officers present.
Yeah.
They were literally there. Officers on foot, officers on bikes, right? And so, you know, what the challenge we had was there were so many people out that night. It did make it difficult for mobility and for us to move around as fights broke out. But it's not indicative of who we are as a whole, right? Mm-hmm. The fact that we do have, the last thing that I'll say, the tragedy is you know, the number of illegal weapons that continue to flow through the streets of Chicago.
Thank you.
You know, these guns are not manufactured in Chicago, and most of them, if not all of them, are being, you know, trafficked in from red states, quite frankly. Mm-hmm. And that's an ongoing effort that we have as a city, as a state, as a nation, to address the fact that we have so many illegal weapons on the streets of America. You know, but, you know, again, we have to hold people accountable, you know, when they do, you know, act viciously or violently, or in this case, when they act in you know, this way that costs someone their life. But we also have to create, you know, more opportunities for people. And that's the balance that we're striking. But again, parents have to know where their children are. We have to hold, you know, everyone accountable to ensure that these unsanctioned gatherings do not become normalized in our city.
Absolutely. Mayor Johnson, my good friend Karen Byrne from TruBlu Politics podcast is hanging out with me this morning. She's from the suburbs, but she's got a quick question she wants to ask you.
So I literally am in walking distance to the Broadview Incarceration Center. And one thing that I noticed in going to some of the town halls with the mayor of Broadview, Mayor Johnson, right? She's Mayor Johnson as well.
Yeah.
Right. So
Thompson,
thank you. Oh my gosh. Okay, so Mayor Thompson, and one of the things that I had so much sympathy for her, because she was taking a lot of heat, and her resources were being stretched so thin, and she just having Kristi Noem show up on her doorstep. So it got me to thinking about the interdependence and the relationship between different communities, the mayors, and you as mayor, and what your relationship is with these mayors as far as addressing some of the things that are happening as a result of the ICE occupation of Chicago and the suburbs, but also just in general.
Yeah. I first of all, think what Mayor Thompson and all of us have had to deal with has been just probably one of the most difficult, moments in our nation's history, right? One of the most difficult moments, right? When you have, a president who has essentially used ICE as his privatized, militarized force, like his private police force, essentially. And, striking the balance, between protecting our First Amendment while also essentially creating a structure that fights back against the federal government is a very complicated, dynamic. And I just just know that what we've had to confront here as a city is something that not only is unprecedented, we did establish a strong model for the rest of the country to see, whether it was creating ice-free zones, not allowing, federal agents to set up their raids on public property. And we know that there are cities across America that are doing this now, or I know in New Orleans that there are families who are fighting for that same policy. Ensuring that people know their rights, making sure that, that again, the First Amendment, is protected, right? And it has been a challenge. And look, we saw that in every single aspect of our resistance, whether it's legislation, executive orders, organizing, litigation, we've demonstrated how strong we can be when we come together in, difficult times. And we do have to prepare and brace ourselves when the weather breaks again. I would imagine that this president will attempt to double down on his efforts to occupy American cities.
I said he was going to leave. They were going to leave Chicago when it got cold here, so they rolled up and left. Mayor Johnson, as we wrap up, and it's always an honor to have you on the show. We won't have a chance to chat again until after the new year, but real quickly as we wrap up, Mayor Johnson, what's your message to the city of Chicago, to the country, your holiday message, your end of year message to not only the city of Chicago, but to the rest of the country?
Yeah, I mean, look, we have to, I believe, focus on what's most important. And I believe what's most important is our families and, our values, that we don't have to compromise our values. We don't. And I had a chance to spend time with my family over Thanksgiving, and I have a father who's almost 84 years old, and we're in a tough stage of Alzheimer's right now, and you cherish every single moment, and it's why I'm working hard to make sure that this budget protects people, right? This moment is not calling for the doubling of garbage fees and raising of property taxes, collecting a grocery tax. At this time, it's just not the right time to do it. This is a time for us all to come together to demonstrate what I believe is the greatest force on earth, and that's the force of love. So hug your family members, be nice to strangers. I mean, this is the way my faith guides me as a believer of Jesus Christ. And so I'm grateful, though, I have this opportunity to serve in this capacity, and I'm looking forward to New Year's Eve. By the way, Richard, I don't know. But for the first time in the history of Chicago, we have Disney, ABC Studios. The New Year's countdown is going to take place in Chicago for Central Standard Time for the first time ever. And for the life of me, I can't tell you why it was never, ever here. And I've worked hard for the last 2 years to be able to get them to come to Chicago. So, I'm praying that this goes well so we can lock them into a long-term contract, man. But thank you for making time for me. And I think that's the key. Time is precious. So make time for the people who are closest to you. And those who are struggling right now, if you can lend a hand to those families, whether it's at a shelter, a food pantry, at your church, your community organization, get involved, you all. The city of Chicago is truly the best city in the world. And we are the best city in the world because we know how to take care of the least of these, the most vulnerable. Absolutely. Mayor Johnson, thanks for being with us. Happy holidays. And we will talk to you next month. Meanwhile, just be safe, okay? Yes, sir. You all do the same. God bless you all. God bless you too. Bye-bye. There it is, guys. Right to the end, Karen. Stay tuned for the Stephanie Miller Show. Take a deep breath. Make your laugh count. Woosah. And I'll see you guys next week when I get back. Take care, guys.
Hey Chicago, Joe Fontana here, founder of Fry the Coop. At Fry the Coop, we serve the best chicken sandwiches in the world. And no, that's not an opinion, that's a fact my taste buds personally signed off on. At Fry the Coop, we hand bread every single piece of chicken, double fry it in 100% beef tallow, and we hit it with our secret Fry the Coop spice rub like it owes us money. The result? A Fry the Coop sandwich so crunchy, juicy, spicy, sweet, salty, and savory, it feels illegal. Fry the Coop has a one-of-a-kind sandwich that makes your taste buds high-five each other. Don't like it? No problem. We guarantee happiness or your money back. But don't worry, you're not going to need it. We now have 10 Fry the Coop locations around the Chicagoland area. So no matter where you're at, there's a good chance there's a Fry the Coop 15 minutes away. And we're local Chicago.